All right, my friends, we are live. If you are watching this live with us, drop a comment. You probably won't hear it because we haven't jumped on yet. But if you're watching this after as a replay, I want you to drop hashtag replay. This does a couple things. It lets us know who's watching our stuff, how we can help you further, and it also bumps it back up to the top of the group when you're commenting, and so other people can see this. So that's big. We're running this on YouTube and inside the junk removal marketing success community, and we've got some really exciting stuff here for you today. So I've got Philip Sessions with me here. I've had him on my podcast. He's had me on his podcast, and I've been watching Philip for a long time now, and he is really good at helping people with speaking. Now, how does that apply to video? Well, you got to speak when you're on video, and he's going to go into all that fun stuff. But he's really good at getting people comfortable to get their message out there and to talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it and why they're doing it. So I'm excited. Philip, I'm gonna turn it right over to you and let you take it away because you've got a little bit of a curriculum here for people. But guys,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Lewis, thank you so much for having me. Let me try and talk here and share my screen. Hopefully it lets me do that. And I do that actually properly here. But yeah, I'm excited to be here to be able to talk about this and share a little bit about how to be confident on video. So let me know. Can you see my screen?
there we go. There we go. We're
All right.
live.
Perfect, perfect. So, yeah, we're going to talk about how to be confident on video because this is something that we see on social media where people are pumping out videos more and more and more. And as Lewis said, that I do help people speaking, and I'll get a little bit more into about me in just a second. But videos are so important because it builds up that know, like, and trust so much more than a static post, whether it be just a short form or long form text content, or if you actually put a picture of yourself and some kind of caption, things of that nature. Those are great. They're useful in their ways. But what I found is videos help you out so much more to build up that know, like, and trust, but also helps you with your conversations down the road. And we're all having to have conversations because I don't know about you, but I probably only sold maybe a couple of people by just posting on social media or just saying, hey, this is what I do. And then they buy from me. It rarely happens that somebody buys from you just because you happen to have whatever product or service they want. So having videos helps them to get comfortable with you so that they will eventually buy your product or service. And so I want to go into our first little slide here. This is kind of funny to me, but a lot of us, when we start doing videos, we're a lot like this crew
Thank you
here.
for watching. Thank you for being part of the Houston community and culture.
Can you hear that, by the way,
I
before I?
can hear that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure it's actually going through. So perfect. All right.
Um, I'm gonna get you. It got so quiet in here. How did I?
So basically, a
Wow.
lot of us, a lot of us, when we're doing videos, it's so awkward and it becomes this whole like crash and burn, as we just saw that person or the car randomly crash in the back of them. I hope that doesn't happen to you, but that's a lot of times what videos feel like. And especially when we're first starting out, it's just like a crash course. We're just going into it and trying it out. And even that guy there, he was just super awkward. He's, well, and he's like clearing his throat while he's talking. And it is very awkward, but you have to get through that before you're going to get better at videos. But now, before we get into the whole training, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I've got a little girl, and I've got a dog. So, I've got my boy there in the mix. Maybe there will be one down the road. But I'm a Christian as well, author, speaker, podcaster, speaking coach. So, I help with presentations, public speaking, and communication skills, kind of all those facets, and really focus on small business owners, helping them be able to communicate effectively. My podcast, Speaking Sessions, is right there in the center. So if you want to go look that up to learn more about public speaking, about presentation skills and communication, I cover a lot of those and there are different aspects because they all are very different. And I do talk about videos every once in a while. I do that more on my actual social media content versus the podcast there, but definitely go check that out. And My goal is to always create the greatest impact I can and make the best versions of the people that I speak to and I educate. So I hope that you learn a lot from today. So what we're going to cover is how to get started when it comes to videos, how to get started with that video, preparing for a video, whether it be your first or it's your 100th or 1000th video. This will help you with preparing, and then posture and body language as you do that video. And you're probably thinking, well, that's kind of weird, but I promise there is application there. Best practices, and then what to talk about at the end, because that's a question that I get all the time. Okay, so you're telling me to do a video, you're saying I need to do them, but what do I talk about? So we're going to go into all of those things here today. So the goal of our training today is to have you go from this unconfident and awkward person to super confident. As you see there on the left side, that guy is like really weird and timid, almost like that video we saw at the beginning where that guy was just super awkward. And then how do you gain that confidence? So this training will help you go from being uncomfortable, unconfident, and awkward over to being confident. And so why do you need to be more confident? Well, first of all, if you're more confident, you're going to have increased sales. And I don't know about you, but I'm all about having some increased sales and increased income and growing my business so I can actually create more impact and help more people. And having these videos and having that confidence in yourself when you do these videos will do just that thing. It'll actually position you as an expert as well. And as the years go on in social media, we're seeing more and more people doing videos, but there's still a lot of people that aren't doing videos. So it makes you stand out from the rest of the people that are doing that. Think about that. Lewis is doing a ton of videos for SEO, and you don't see a lot of people doing that because, well, SEO is typically, when we think of it, it's more of the words and the maybe the metadata and all the things on the back end that you see on your website pages, you see on posts and things like that. And you don't think about videos, but that video is a great way for people to get to know Lewis and realize that, hey, he is the guy you need to talk to about SEO because he's comfortable with it. You can tell he's knowledgeable because I mean, today I can use Chat GPT and it'll sound like I know everything about speaking, or I know everything about SEO, or I know everything about junk removal, but I have no clue about any of it. I just asked a question in Chat GPT, write me a script real quick. If you're doing a video, and there is AI out there now to help with videos, I still don't think it's quite there yet to make it super realistic. But if you are doing videos, you are able to see, or people are able to see who you are and if you're the real deal or not. But if you're just writing posts all the time, and I'm not knocking on writing posts, there definitely is benefit in that. But if you're only writing posts, there's still in the back of everybody's mind, is this really a real person? Do they really know what they're talking about, or they just go look up something real quick? So that's why you want to do those videos as well, to help you become that expert and position yourself as that expert. And it builds that trust. A lot of the same things that I just talked about. But when you're doing that, it's essentially like seeing somebody eye to eye. When we're on social media, we can start building up this knowledge of somebody. Maybe we're building up a little bit of trust, but when you can really see that person and you see how they act on video, when you see them in person, it's instantaneous. You're like, that is the same person I see in those videos that I see here in person with me now. So it builds up trust by having those videos, and it makes you perceived as more knowledgeable, especially now with Chat GPT. You can just go put that in and you could just type out something or have it type out something, and then you might mesh it a little bit, mold it to make it sound like you wrote it, and all of a sudden, wow, you sound like a genius, but really it wasn't you. So that video really helps make you look more knowledgeable because you're having to speak that knowledge out. And then higher energy. People may perceive that you're either being serious, or maybe you're funny. They can perceive your emotion in one way when you mean it in another way when it's a text form. I don't know how many times I've been texted by my wife and she'll tell me something, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be in the doghouse for this one. And really, she's not even mad. But I thought in my mind that she's kind of pissed at me now. And she wasn't. And I've done that with friends as well. where I thought something wasn't quite right or they didn't like something, and it's the way I perceived it. But whenever you're doing those videos, you can create that energy. So whether it be this higher energy, you're more excited, or you're maybe more just intense, you can show that intensity, you can show that excitement, you can show the sadness with video that you can't show with text. So this is why you want to make sure that you're confident, because it gives you all of these things, and why video is so important. And so let's go right into getting started. So when it comes to getting started, speak about what you're comfortable with talking about first. Don't talk about random stuff necessarily, but let's talk about you. That's something you could easily talk about. Talk about you, talk about your life, talk about your family. Don't talk about food. That was the beginning times of Instagram. Let's actually make it something a little bit more relevant. You can even talk about your business, but talk about things that you're comfortable with talking about. Because if you're already uncomfortable here on your phone trying to do a video, you're going to be really uncomfortable trying to also add in a message that you're not comfortable speaking about. And remember that when you're doing these videos, it's not about you. You are not there trying to get thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, getting 10 or 20 or 30 shares just to build up your popularity and make your business better. In the long run, that is the goal behind doing this, building up that know, like, and trust. But if every single video, all you do is go in for a sale, you all know that that does not work well. So you want to make sure that you are remembering your audience, because when you remember your audience, you start speaking to your audience, and that message connects so much more. Think about with kids. We see kids, they're focused on themselves. They're there, they need certain things, and they'll just let you know this is what they want. And it doesn't make you feel good necessarily as a parent. You're okay with it because that's just kind of a thing as a parent. But when it comes to other people, other adults, if they are just focused on themselves, you're not going to want to be around them. So you want to make sure that these videos are focused on the audience that you're trying to speak to, and also is helpful because then they know that you're actually talking to them instead of just trying to talk about yourself, or talk in a way that's just uplifting you, because then it just sounds like you're there just to talk. And then practice, 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 practice. You have to just keep doing videos. You're going to suck at first. I sucked at first when I first started doing videos, but you have to continue to practice over and over again and realize that it is going to take time, because you can do all the research you want. You can watch this over and over again, this video training here, and you're not going to get better necessarily. You'll learn and you'll have the knowledge in your head, but it's applying that knowledge that matters. So go and practice that. Learn a little bit, practice, review, practice again. Relax and have fun. Too many of us, myself included, are just like, okay, I'm going to do the video. I've got to do the video. It's just part of being on social media. It's a part of building a business, building a brand. I've just got to do the video. And you start getting stressed, and it's not fun anymore. And when you get stressed, that comes off in your video. Those emotions come out, and people don't want to be around people that are stressed. People want to be around people that are fun, they're having a good time, and they've got good energy. So make sure that you're relaxed and have some fun with these videos as well. And then finally, don't overthink. I think it makes it a little bit easier with reels because they're typically under 60 seconds. So you don't have a lot of time to think. You can just say something really quick, a couple of sentences, and you're done. But don't overthink what you're going to talk about, because when you create complexity by overthinking about what you're going to say in a video, it makes it really difficult for the audience to connect with you. Another method is keep it simple, stupid, right? The KISS method. So keeping it simple is a really important thing to do. So don't overthink when you're getting started with this. Just start recording and you'll get better. And Lewis, if anybody are asking questions, please let me know. Chime in with that. By the way, I can't see the chat right now.
I will. I will. And
All
guys,
right.
you know what? As we go through here, to drop comments, and then Philip's gonna, I think he's gonna have me do a little interactive thing at the end to just kind of help some of you, and then any questions you have, we'll answer those as well.
All right, awesome. So now let's talk about preparing for a video. Now we're ready. Maybe we have our ideas. We know how to get started, what things to think about, having some fun, not overthinking. But now, how do we actually prepare? 'Cause you can't just go on, especially when you're first starting. You can't just, "Oh, I'm going to hit record and then think of something. It's not going to go well. You're going to stutter the whole time. You're going to be lost. You're going to ramble on, and all of a sudden, this video that was supposed to be 60 seconds or less is actually like 5 minutes. Believe it or not, we can ramble on for quite a while. Or you could go the opposite way too. And I've had people do this that I've coached, and you say, okay, here's this scenario, start talking. Or here's a question, and they'll answer it in 3 seconds. Yeah, okay. So, and that one's a little bit different because I didn't give them the question ahead of time, so they couldn't really prepare. But a lot of times, if we're not prepared, we can either ramble on and go out for a super long period of time, or we barely even address the question or the topic. And then it's like, okay, I didn't learn anything from that video. So you want to make sure that you do prepare. So know what your clients' needs are and who they are. This is one of the things that I struggled with when I first started. I see a lot of people that do video content. They do this all the time. And even with non video content, they just post generic things. And when you post a generic video, it doesn't reach an audience. Think about the people that like pistachio ice cream. I'm not a fan of pistachio ice cream, but if you are a fan of pistachio ice cream, you're probably going to like that person a lot more. Or maybe it's a favorite sports team that you have. You are into that sports team, and if somebody else loves that sports team, they're going to like you automatically. You automatically have this familiarity with this person. You have this bond with this person because they like that same sports team as you. And it's the same thing when it comes to doing a business post or trying to speak to a particular audience. You need to point out pain points or similarities that this audience has as you speak, and speak in a way that they can apply it for themselves, because they're not going to make that connection. We think that they will because in our minds, this makes sense. What we're saying here is actually going to connect, but it won't connect for them. For instance, if you're trying to lose weight, and I can say, hey, if you're trying to lose weight, one thing that you can do is start going to the gym every day. Okay, well, that may be true, but how does that apply to me? So now what you could say, and you can go into more detail, and depending on your audience and what you're trying to do, you may go into more or less detail. But I could talk more specifically like, hey, I know it's a struggle. You've got a kid that's under 2 years old. It's hard to get up during the day. But if you just make time 3 days a week, I guarantee that you are going to start losing weight when it comes to going to the gym 3 times a week. And I kind of messed up that a little bit. But there I got more specific. I'm talking to a parent, and I could have said like, I could have said guys in there. I could have went a little bit more detailed. And now because of what I said, that audience is now realizing that I'm talking to them. So you can do this with your business as well. And then having an outline, you want to have some bullet points. If it's a short reel, you're probably not going to have bullet points. But if you're talking about a long form content or something that's over a few minutes, you may have a couple of bullet points, and you go through those bullet points and elaborate on that. But that way, you know what you're going to talk about as well. So you want to make sure you have like point one, point two, point three, and go through that and start talking about those things. And that way, you have that so you can know what you want to review, but don't have it fully written out. Because I've seen people where they'll write out the whole script and it never goes well, because then you start reading the text, and I'm looking at the title here. So preparing for a video, know what your client needs are and who they are. That's not going to go off very well. So you want to make sure that you aren't just reading from that script, because then you get monotone. You're not having that energy anymore, and it doesn't come off as a natural thing. So make sure you just have an outline, so you have your points you're going to talk about. You can stay focused, but you can also bring in some analogies or some thoughts as they start popping in your head to be able to bring out for a more natural conversational type video. And then timing yourself during practice. This is one thing, especially if you're going to be on stage, that you need to get better at, is knowing what your time you're spending on these videos. Hey, how long does it take me to actually get through 3 points? Am I expanding upon it too much? And so as you start doing content, especially for videos or being on that stage, you need to know, how long is it going to take me to get through the 3 points or 3 topics that I want to talk about today? And or in the future when I go on that, because especially, let's go with YouTube. If you're doing a YouTube video and you try to keep things around 10 minutes, you need to know, okay, if I talk this much, it's going to keep me under 10 minutes. But if I talk this much, then it's going to put me way over 10 minutes. And I know my audience doesn't like to listen to videos that are longer than 10 minutes. So just kind of time yourself so you can get in this rhythm and know how long a video takes or a topic takes for you to talk about, especially when it comes to getting to that next step from video on the stage. And then reviewing your previous videos. This is an awkward thing to do. We all think we sound weird. It doesn't matter how great somebody's voice is. Somebody will think that, or you will think that you sound weird. Other people don't think you sound weird necessarily, but you will think that. But you have to review those videos. It's kind of like going and trying to sell your product or service, and you just keep trying the same exact way over and over again, and you keep getting no, no, no. You never make any sales, and you just keep trying it because you're like, well, it's eventually going to work. And that may be true, but what can you do to make that process better? And it's by going back and reviewing that sales conversation you had. It's by going back and reviewing the videos that you have done so you can see, okay, hey, I can actually do this a little bit more. Oh, maybe I should have put a pause in there. Oh, I made a joke and I didn't pause afterwards. I just said the joke and kept going. I didn't give time for the audience to actually laugh or catch up in their mind to say, oh, that actually was funny, or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you go back and review so you can start getting better at the way you present on your videos, and then ask your friends for feedback. This is something that a lot of us don't do a lot of either. We want to make sure that we ask our friends for that feedback, because they're going to have maybe a little bit of a biased opinion because they know who we are, but they also aren't us. So they can give us an unbiased opinion and let us know some real feedback that we need in order to be able to get better at those videos. Because there's things that we'll see, we may make excuses for ourselves. So asking those friends is a really important thing when it comes to starting to prepare for your videos, and as you start doing a few of them and getting more and more into those videos. And then posture and body language. So where in the world do you look? First of all, if you're on your phone, and I've got a phone up here, you want to make sure that you look into the lens. If you look at the screen, the problem with looking at the screen is like I'm looking down at you. So I'm looking at the camera right now as I'm recording this, and it looks like I'm making eye contact with you. But if I look at the PowerPoint here, it looks like I'm looking down at your chest, or maybe a little bit lower than that. But it's such a slight difference. Yet when you're looking at the screen, it doesn't look like you're making eye contact with the person watching the video. So first and foremost, you want to make sure that you look at that camera lens, or you look at your webcam camera, whatever you're doing it on. You want to look into the lens so that you can mimic eye contact. And then smile. I know it sounds kind of weird, but the more you smile, the more your energy is going to rise. Your voice will rise up a little bit. It won't be so maybe deep and somber and putting people to sleep. And it's hard to not be a little bit more charismatic if you're smiling. So smile, and everybody likes a smile. Think about with the picture. If you're walking by an amusement park and there's a group getting together and they're trying to take a picture and they say, hey, smile, and you see them smile, what do? You automatically smile as well. So that's why you also want to make sure that you smile in your videos. And then over exaggerate on the camera. Just like we hear all the time that the camera adds 10 pounds to us, the camera takes away at least 10% of your energy. So if you're here and you just sound so excited, and it might really be awkward for you, it almost looks normal when you over exaggerate your excitement on video when people are watching that video. So it takes away a lot of that excitement, that energy that you have when you're doing that video. So make sure that you really over exaggerate or overemphasize your expressions in order to be able to draw that energy that's needed, whether it be a happy emotion or a sad emotion, or you're trying to be serious. You want to make sure that you over exaggerate that, so that way people can actually pick up on the full emotion that you're trying to get with your video. And then lastly, some best practices here. So again, we mentioned this earlier, but have fun. If you're not having fun with this, you're not going to do well at it. It's just like your business. If you don't find ways to be able to have fun and enjoy it, you are not going to enjoy these videos. Yes, you may not enjoy them at first, but it's okay. Just realize you need to start trying to have fun at some point. Keep practicing. You need to keep doing videos. I would suggest try to do at least 10 videos before you even judge yourself, before you even say, you know what, I'm throwing in a towel. I'm never doing another video again. And go back and look at that first video, look at that second video, look at that third video, go compare it to the last video you did. I promise there's going to be a difference if you are intentional with doing videos. But if you just come in and say, okay, I'm going to knock out 10 videos here real quick, you're not going to be much better. So let this be over maybe a week time span. Go back and review each video and see how you can improve on that. And after 10 videos, I promise there's going to be enough difference that it's going to encourage you to keep going. And which I just mentioned for the next point is review those videos. What are the good things that you did? Continue to do those and double down on those. But the bad things, what were those bad things? Try and mitigate some of those, but focus on one bad thing at a time, or focus on one improvement at a time, a better thing that you can do. Don't simply think that, okay, I'm just going to focus on everything good and everything bad. It's exactly like business. Doing videos is just like business. If you try and focus on everything that you need to do or need to stop doing or whatever it is, if you're focusing on everything, nothing's a priority and nothing is going to happen. And it's the same thing for videos. So focus on one thing at a time to fix, whether it be a good thing or a bad thing. And again, remember, it's not about you. Your videos are not about you. Yes, they're going to help you improve your speaking. They're going to improve your communication. They're going to build your business up, build up your confidence. But if you are not focused on your audience, your videos are not going to be good. And make sure that you slow down when you speak as well. Too often times, especially when we're first starting out, we're nervous. We're going to speak a lot faster. So you want to make sure that you slow down, try and get those nerves down, and that way your audience can actually hear you and understand you. Especially, and I'm here in South Carolina, so I'm in the southern part of the United States. We speak a little bit slower than those up in the Northeast, which would be like New Jersey, New York, stuff like that. And so people up there speaking so fast, it's hard for some Southerners to be able to understand that. So you want to make sure that you slow down so everybody can understand you. Or people that have a different language that they first spoke, and English may not be their first language. Trying to understand the English language is also hard for them. So slowing down helps those people as well. And it really kind of goes back to who is your audience also. So that's something to keep in mind. But it's always good practice to slow down a little bit so that people can understand you. And then it helps you be able to process through what you're talking about so you don't stumble as you go into that next point. And then lastly, tell stories. Too often, we want to sit there and tell fact after fact after fact after fact, and that doesn't help us in the long run because our audience can only retain so much information. So if you decide you want to do 10 bullet points, here's the top 10 things you need to know, it's not necessarily a good thing. Maybe for some long form of content, but especially if it's a short video under 60 seconds, you definitely don't want to do that. But even for a long video, I would not suggest doing a top 10 unless if it's maybe one of these like top 10 coolest places to live in the world or something like that. That would be a little bit different. But for your business, you need to really shrink that down. I would say 3, 5 at a max. So you want to do something like that where it's bite-sized pieces for them, that you're doing that and you're telling stories around it, because you can tell a fact but then back it up with the story. How do you elaborate upon that? It's through a story. And most people can remember a story. It makes them think about their situation. But if you're just telling that fact, they can't think about their situation. But that story will make it relatable for them where they can think about their situation. How does that fact and that story apply to them? And now they can retain that information that you're giving to them on that video. It'll help them think about you later on. Because I've had that actually happen where I'll tell the story on a video on social media. Somebody won't even comment on it, and they'll see me later, be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, da 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 da." They'll tell me about that video with that story, and they'll tell me about how they had a similar situation happen. And that's the crazy thing and the powerful thing with videos is that people can relate to your video, they can relate to you, they can relate to your story because you're telling that story. And now they have that fact and they have you at top of mind because you relate it to them with a story. And so I missed one thing. So what to talk about? So we want to make sure that we're building this rapport. We want to be there in the center of that know, like, and trust. And it's not always that every single video is going to be about building know, like, and trust. You may just have them get to know you or get to know your service. And then maybe you might talk about a personal story, which gets them to know you, but it also gets them to start liking you. And then you can go over there and build trust. So maybe you're showing some core values that you have. You're showing that integrity that you hold up, or you're showing your service that you provide and how that has been helpful for other people. Now they're building that trust up. They're seeing that you can do the work that you say you can do, and you're building up that trust. You're building up that credibility with them. And so there's a lot of different ways you can go and do that. But you want to have this whole know, like, and trust. And the more you can do all three of those in the video, a better. But you can talk about your family, life, current events. You can talk about client wins, what you're doing to help clients, freedom, your faith. All of these different little topics really help you build that rapport, which builds that know, like, and trust. And address topics that your clients ask you often. I think this is something that's underlooked a lot. And I'm sure Lewis has probably talked to you about this, but address those clients' questions. It's easy to put out an FAQ on your website, do videos on it. That's an easy way. Like, hey, I can explain it to you if you're, especially if you're messaging them, but hey, here's a video, go check this out. And they get to see you actually explain that video versus reading what you wrote. So make sure that you're addressing those topics in those videos as well. And then speak to your style. So if you're more of a serious person, be serious. It's okay. Don't sit there and try and be a comedian if you're not a comedian. Make sure that you're being you at the end of the day. That's ultimately what I mean by style. Be you. Don't try and be somebody else. Don't try and be an Ed Milet or Tony Robbins or Andy Frisella or any of these well-known speakers. Gary Vee, another one. Don't be them. Be you, because that's who people connect with. They connect with you. They don't connect with you trying to be somebody else. And so that was really what I had today when it comes to video presentations and how to build up your confidence. So if you have any questions, I would love to hear that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, but I want to open up to questions at this point.
I love it. I love it. We've got Moses says we rock. Appreciate you jumping in. And David, I know David's actually been working on his video, so he's I know he was excited to catch this. We don't have any questions right now. What was the little interactive thing that you wanted to run through, Philip?
So what I was gonna do, I was hoping people. I didn't know where we were gonna be at. Let me pull up. I had some random questions I was gonna ask. So now everybody gets to hear you answer a random question. So I like to do this because it's fun, it's interactive, and I'm able to actually give you some critiques on how you can get better at speaking. So maybe we'll have to do another training sometime where we're on Zoom and other people can do this as well.
I
But
love it.
yeah, I'm gonna get my timer out here because I want to try and get you to speak for about a minute if you can. If you don't,
Okay.
that's fine. I'm not gonna chastise you or anything like that. But I need you to pick a number between 1 to 20.
15.
15. All right. Have you ever had to complain to management? And if so, why? Have you ever had to complain to management? And if so, why?
Oh, this is good. This is putting him on the spot. So, you want me to just kind of talk as if I'm making a video?
I just want you, yeah, just have a conversation. Just telling me about that, kind of elaborating on this question.
trying to think of a specific instance, to be honest. I think the classic one is a restaurant, right? When you don't get what you ordered. Actually, yes, I knew there was one in here. So we went to a really remote town in Nova Scotia and went out for a day, spent a day on this remote island, came back, hit this little restaurant on the wharf, and I ordered a hamburger. I don't usually order hamburgers in restaurants. I don't really know why, but I ordered one this time. I was feeling it, and the hamburger was amazing for like the first bite, and then it was like completely rare, like completely uncooked. So I sent it back to get cooked some more, and then they brought it back and like hadn't changed. So I sent it back. I was like, I can't be eating fully raw hamburger on our our vacation. So I sent it back, and Alyssa had finished her meal by this time. I hadn't even had my hamburger yet. So definitely was a case of complaining to management that, hey, let's get the burger right. It was the best burger I've had. The couple bites that I did have, but yeah, definitely was a complaint to management over that.
Nice. Well, you got it to 57 seconds when I finally started chiming you. So not
Oh,
too
that was
bad.
close. That was close.
Yeah, yeah, real close. So it sounds like you're pretty good with timing. So first of all, I definitely, you're kind of like stumbling trying to figure out what to do. That's something, especially when it comes to videos. I mean, I know videos you're going to be prepared,
Yep.
but think about a podcast. Most likely you're going to have a video for that. And you
Yep.
don't have time to think. You're basically have to think and respond right away. Especially if you're fumbling like that, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know about Lewis. I don't know if I really want him on the podcast. Or if
His
you're in
reply was
a
about as good as the burger.
yeah, yeah. No, it was good overall once you got into it. But then also when it comes to our sales conversations too, we got to think about that. If you're kind of fumbling at the beginning on how to answer a question, and again, this is difficult because it's just a random question. You're trying to think of a random scenario, but if you start fumbling in your sales conversation, that really is gonna make people think that they can't trust in you, that you don't have confidence in your own product or service, or you really just don't even know what it is, how you can help them, how your product works, or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you're not fumbling there either. I did like that you got a little descriptive for us. I thought that was good. So you didn't just say, yeah, it was a bad burger. I had them send it back. They didn't like it again. Like you actually added details in there about how Alyssa had finished her meal and you still hadn't gotten yours yet. Because you could have went in and just answered it, but like, yeah, went to this restaurant, bit into this burger. It was great on that first bite, or and maybe you wouldn't have mentioned that, but is really good. You described that as well. That it was a great first bite, and then it was really rare. And you sent it back, and then Alyssa
It was
finished her
brutal.
meal. So there's a lot of like great description in there, and that's something, especially when we're doing videos, we're not good about describing it because that whole scenario, you could have literally said that, yeah, I had this burger, it was undercooked, I sent it back a couple times, and it was the worst experience I had, and you're done in like 10 seconds.
Mhm.
but you have to be able to expand upon it. And when it comes to our videos, we want to make sure that we do that rather than trying to have either it's so condensed and all we do is literally address a question maybe we have, going back to our frequently asked questions, rather than just literally answering the question. Let's expand upon it a little bit. That's a great thing with videos. And so if you have an idea that you're going to talk about, rather than talking about 10 ideas, so I'm kind of putting a list here, 10 ideas, we shrink it down to one or two ideas or one or two topics and expand upon those topics because it makes it that much more interesting.
Mm.
So going back to just kind of giving you a little review of what you did on your
Yeah,
video,
no, I
I
appreciate
thought,
that.
yeah, I thought it was good overall. Again, random questions, a little difficult. You weren't necessarily looking at the camera to make eye contact, so I definitely would suggest that a little bit.
Yep.
And I mean, you sound a little, understandably, a little thrown off by the question because it was random. But definitely just keep that confidence, as much as you can, because that's going to happen in life. We're going to get thrown off by questions we have, especially in our business with our conversations that go on. So just try and keep that confidence by just answering what you do know or trying to give the information that you can. And then, like I said, you elaborated on it, which I thought was really good. That a lot of people don't, especially whenever I ask these random questions. And the reason why I like to do this, and I like to do this when I do trainings, and that's why I was hoping we were on Zoom so we could kind of do this, is I can give you feedback on things that you can work on to get better. but then it
Mhm.
also helps you with the podcast interviews, with interviews in general, sales conversations, because in just everyday conversations, a simple, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm good. How about you? I'm doing great. And you start talking about business, and these things are just kind of coming up, and you're having to answer on the fly. There's no real thinking about it involved. And so doing this little exercise helps out a lot with that, for you to be able to think on the fly, and then also keeping it within a certain time frame too. And that's more for when you get on stage, but even in a normal conversation, it's something that you need to keep in mind too, because if you have a 30-minute meeting and all of a sudden it's like 35 minutes in and you feel like you barely talked about anything because you kept talking and talking and talking, it's now you've lost credibility, because there's a lot of times where we have back to back to back meetings and you could have lost that business as well, because you decided to talk so much that you didn't actually get to the sales conversation, or you didn't even get into the whole pitch, or however that conversation was going to be. And so now you talk about one thing for so much time, or I shouldn't go so far out, but for such a long time, or you talked about it for such a short amount of time that it becomes awkward as well. As I've had those conversations where you're going in, you're asking questions. It's like, let's just go with speaking here real quick. Like, hey, so what are you looking for with speaking? How to get better? Okay, well, what does getting better look like? About doing more videos. It's like, okay, so how do you keep bringing this out, especially when
Right.
you're on that, if you're interviewing the person's side and they're being that short? How do you continue to bring up conversations? I like to do that exercise for that reason, to really help out with that. So I would
Yeah, that's cool.
suggest that
That's cool.
to your audience to do that too.
And I think the biggest takeaway, uh, that I would say anybody should do if you take nothing else out of this is just practice, guys.
Hmm.
None of us Philip wasn't as good as he is now when he started. I certainly wasn't. I still think I have a long ways to go, and sometimes I still get nervous putting the camera on. Like I do Sunday mornings. I do reels. That's when I do my reels for the week,
Hmm.
and I don't necessarily want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, but putting your message out there. You spoke a lot about it. It helps people know you, like you, trust you, understand what you do. You can answer questions. Your frequently asked questions for clients. There's a lot of power in this. You can do on the job stuff. Walking potential clients through what you're doing on a current job. There's a lot of power in doing these things for video. So just get out there and practice, guys. There's Phillips dropped some really good points here. Run through what he did and then just go practice. Get some feedback, practice some more. And if you do that consistently, you're going to get better because you're going to be less uncomfortable on camera.
Mm. And actually, you talking about on the job site, that's a really cool thing, because it kind of gives that behind the scenes feel, which
Yeah.
is always really cool to see. But then also, as your clients start seeing, like, oh man, like I've got a buddy that does countertops and he's got this massive saw, and I don't even know how much it costs, but it's like, there's a big cost with that. I don't have that equipment. So it's not like I'm just going to go make my own countertop now, because, like,
Yeah.
oh, I can get that cheaper by doing it myself. Like, no, no way. And so there's all these things that you're going to start seeing this company invest in, especially for contractors, because sometimes these prices, I mean, you're like, hey, that kitchen remodel is going to cost $30,000, or maybe it's 50, or maybe it is only 10, or whatever it is. But a lot of people are like, whew, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. But if you're having these videos and building up no like, and trust, and kind of showing behind the scenes, you're also kind of subconsciously giving them insight to how much you've had to invest into this equipment, that if they were to going to try and do it themselves for cheaper, they would then have to go and invest in it as well. So it's kind of a twofold thing there. You give them behind the scenes, kind of this cool thing, but then also they're seeing, like, hey, what does your shop look like? What is the equipment that you have? So when you do now have this conversation about, oh yeah, it's gonna be $30,000 for this countertop, or this kitchen remodel, or this roof, whatever it may be, that's not as unexpected as, oh, I mean, you guys just put in a slab, right? It's no big deal.
Yeah.
so, so you can
Yeah.
kind of build that up a little bit too from there. It's not going to be, well, foolproof, but it will be something to kind of help with that.
Huge. I love it. I love it. Well, I think there's lots of nuggets in here. Philip, anything else before we jump off?
No, I think you summarized it well, which actually really goes into the end of videos. Summarize those videos well, and then summarize what your audience or your potential client is asking for, also, just to make sure that you get that. So that's more of a communication tip for you there. But whenever you're having that conversation at the end, make sure you summarize up what it is that they asked about. So that way, when you summarize it, if you mess up or you misheard something, they can correct you right then, which cuts down on having more meetings and conversations to talk about what it is they exactly want.
Huge. I love it. Where can people find you, Philip?
You can find me on Facebook at The Real Philip Sessions or on LinkedIn at Philip Sessions, Instagram, I am Philip Sessions. So any of those places, I'm all over social media. If you want to connect, happy to connect. DMs are open. So happy to have a conversation.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys and girls, get out there, make some videos. I'm going to be starting up a video challenge here, and I want to see some people jump into it. I know we've gotten some excitement around that. David's been sending me a few videos just in like the week that he was sending me videos. I saw his confidence massively increase. So that was
Nice.
really cool. I think there's a lot of value in video, and the more, the more stuff comes out for writing content, all these different things, I think video is a really, really good way to stand out and help people know, like, and trust you. So Philip, really appreciate your time. We'll let the people get back to it, and we'll wrap up off camera.
All right. See ya.
All right, talk soon, guys.